They said I was just the widow and wouldn't understand the finances. So I froze every account they forgot I co-signed. The morning sun cast long shadows across the polished mahogany table in the downtown Chicago law offices of Patterson and Associates as I adjusted my simple black dress and watched three men in expensive suits shuffle through stacks of papers that would determine my family's financial future. 6 months had passed since my husband, Detective James Morrison, lost his battle with cancer, a disease that the doctors believed was connected to his 27 years of exposure to hazardous materials while working crime scenes throughout the south side of Chicago. I had been married to James for 31 years, during which time I had worked as an elementary school teacher while he dedicated his life to serving our community through the Chicago Police Department. We had raised 2 children together, lived modestly in our 3-bedroom house in Beverly, and saved carefully for a retirement that we had planned to spend traveling and spoiling our 4 grandchildren who meant everything to us. If this story is resonating with you, please take a moment to comment below and let us know where you're watching from. Give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, because we genuinely help families navigate these difficult financial and legal situations. Your support enables us to continue sharing these stories and providing resources for people facing similar challenges. What these 3 attorneys sitting across from me didn't realize was that while they saw me as just the widow who wouldn't understand complex financial arrangements, I had actually been managing our household finances for over 2 decades and held co-signatory rights on every single account, investment, and business venture that James had established throughout his career. During his final months, when the chemotherapy made it difficult for him to focus on paperwork and legal documents, he had insisted on adding my name to every remaining asset to ensure I would have complete control over our family's financial security. The lead attorney, Robert Patterson himself, was a distinguished man in his early 60s who had built his reputation representing police officers and their families in complex legal matters involving disability claims, wrongful death suits, and retirement benefit disputes. His firm had handled James's disability case when the cancer first appeared, and we had trusted him to navigate the complicated process of securing the maximum benefits available through the department's insurance programs and workers' compensation system. However, as I sat in that conference room listening to Patterson and his associates discuss my late husband's estate and financial arrangements, it became clear that they viewed me as nothing more than a grieving widow who would need their guidance to make appropriate decisions about money matters that were supposedly beyond my comprehension. Their condescending tone and oversimplified explanations revealed their assumption that I had been merely a passive participant in our marriage's financial planning. Patterson began the meeting by expressing his condolences and explaining that they had taken the liberty of reviewing all of James's accounts and investments to develop a comprehensive plan for managing my inheritance. He spoke slowly and used basic terminology, as if he were addressing a child rather than a woman who had been balancing budgets, making investment decisions, and planning for our family's future for 3 decades. "Mrs. Morrison," Patterson said, sliding a thick folder across the table toward me, "I know this is overwhelming for someone in your position, but we want to ensure that you don't make any hasty decisions about these complex financial instruments that your husband accumulated over the years. These types of investments require sophisticated understanding of market dynamics and risk management strategies." His associate, a younger attorney named David Chun, added, "We've prepared a simplified portfolio that would be more appropriate for someone with your background and experience level. It focuses on very conservative investments that won't require you to make complicated decisions about asset allocation or market timing. We think this approach would give you peace of mind while protecting you from the stress of managing more complex financial products." The third member of their team, Michael Rodriguez, nodded in agreement and explained that they had already contacted several of James's investment accounts to begin the process of liquidating what he termed unnecessarily complicated positions that would be too difficult for a layperson to understand properly. He assured me that their simplified approach would eliminate the burden of trying to comprehend quarterly reports, dividend schedules, and market performance data. As I listened to their presentation, my anger began building steadily while I maintained a calm exterior and allowed them to continue revealing their complete ignorance about my actual level of financial knowledge and involvement in our family's investment strategy. They had clearly never bothered to review the account documentation carefully enough to notice that my name appeared as co-owner or co-signatory on every single asset they were discussing. Patterson continued his condescending explanation, detailing how they would handle the complex process of transferring James's police pension benefits and life insurance proceeds into what he described as simple, easy-to-understand accounts that I could manage without assistance. He mentioned that they had already contacted the pension board and insurance companies to begin processing claims on my behalf, assuming that I would need their help navigating these procedures. The important thing, Chun interjected, is that you don't try to handle any of this yourself. These financial institutions can be very intimidating for someone who isn't familiar with their procedures and requirements. We'll take care of everything, so you don't have to worry about making mistakes that could jeopardize your financial security. Rodriguez added, we've also identified several investments that your husband made that frankly seem inappropriate for a police officer's salary level. We're concerned that he may have been misled by unscrupulous financial advisors who convinced him to take excessive risks with money that should have been in safer, more conservative instruments. We'll work to unwind these positions and move everything into properly diversified, low-risk portfolios. Their assumptions about my financial ignorance became even more insulting as Patterson explained that they would charge a monthly management fee to handle all investment decisions and account administration, ensuring that I wouldn't have to burden myself with complicated financial matters during this difficult grieving period. He presented this arrangement as a generous service they were providing to protect me from my own inexperience and poor judgment. The breaking point came when Chen suggested that I might want to consider selling our house and moving into a smaller apartment, arguing that maintaining a property of that size would be too much responsibility for a woman in your situation. He explained that the proceeds from the sale could be invested in certificates of deposit that would provide steady, predictable income without the stress of property management or market fluctuations. That was the moment I decided to reveal exactly how wrong their assumptions had been about my financial capabilities and the extent of my involvement in managing our family's wealth. I reached into my purse and pulled out a leather portfolio containing copies of every account statement, investment summary, and legal document that demonstrated my co-ownership of our entire financial empire. Gentlemen, I said, my voice calm but firm, I think there's been a significant misunderstanding about my role in our family's financial planning and my current legal status regarding these accounts. I opened the portfolio and began placing documents on the table, watching their expressions change as they realized the magnitude of their error. The first document I showed them was our joint investment account statement from Goldman Sachs, which revealed a balance of over $2 million in carefully diversified holdings including blue-chip stocks, international funds, and commodity investments. My name appeared clearly as the primary account holder, with James listed as the secondary owner, indicating that I had full authority to make all investment decisions without any need for legal intervention or attorney involvement. Patterson's face showed the first signs of concern as he examined the Goldman Sachs documents, clearly recognizing that the investment portfolio was far more sophisticated and substantial than he had assumed possible for a police officer's family. The account history showed a consistent pattern of strategic buying and selling that demonstrated considerable financial acumen and market knowledge. I continued laying out evidence of our financial arrangements, including statements from our Fidelity retirement accounts totaling over $1.5 million, our Charles Schwab trading account with another $800,000 in active investments, and documentation of our real estate holdings including 3 rental properties in addition to our primary residence, all of which generated substantial monthly income. This is our primary checking account, I said, sliding another document across the table. As you can see, my name has been on this account since 1992, and I've been the one managing all deposits, transfers, and bill payments for our household and investment activities. James handled the dangerous work on the streets, and I handled our financial security at home. The 3 attorneys were becoming visibly uncomfortable as they realized that not only had they completely misjudged my financial sophistication, but they had also failed to conduct proper due diligence before making assumptions about their client's estate and the surviving spouse's capabilities. Their proposed simplified portfolio would have been a dramatic step backward from the complex but highly successful investment strategy that I had been implementing for years. Chun was the first to attempt damage control, stammering an apology about their incomplete understanding of our financial arrangements and expressing surprise that a police officer's family had been able to accumulate such substantial wealth. His comment revealed another layer of their prejudiced assumptions about law enforcement families and their supposed inability to achieve significant financial success. How exactly did you manage to build this level of wealth on a police officer's salary? Rodriguez asked, his tone suggesting disbelief or suspicion about the legitimacy of our financial success. His question demonstrated not only his ignorance about police compensation packages, but also his apparent unfamiliarity with the power of consistent investing and compound growth over multiple decades. I explained that James had worked extensive overtime throughout his career, often pulling double shifts and taking on special assignments that significantly increased his annual income beyond the base salary figures that most people associated with police work. Additionally, his military service before joining the Chicago Police Department had provided him with valuable benefits, including educational assistance that allowed him to earn his bachelor's degree without student loan debt. More importantly, I continued, we had lived well below our means throughout our marriage, driving used cars, taking modest vacations, and avoiding the lifestyle inflation that trapped many of our peers in cycles of debt and financial stress. Instead of spending every dollar we earned, we had consistently invested 15 to 20% of our combined income in diversified portfolios that we managed ourselves after educating ourselves about financial markets and investment strategies. I have a master's degree in mathematics, I added, watching their expressions change as this new information contradicted their assumptions about my educational background and analytical capabilities. I've been reading financial publications, analyzing market trends, and making investment decisions for our family since the late 1980s. James trusted my judgment completely and often said that I was better with numbers than most of the financial advisors we met over the years. Patterson cleared his throat and attempted to regain control of the meeting, suggesting that regardless of my previous involvement, I might still benefit from professional guidance during the emotional stress of grieving and adjusting to widowhood. He argued that even experienced investors sometimes made poor decisions when dealing with the psychological pressure of major life changes. However, I wasn't finished revealing the extent of their miscalculations about our family's financial situation and my role in managing it. I pulled out the final set of documents that would completely demolish their condescending assumptions about my need for their services and simplified investment strategies. This is the documentation for the business that James and I started together 15 years ago, I said, placing the corporate paperwork on the table. Morrison Security Consulting provides risk assessment and security planning services for small businesses throughout the Chicago metropolitan area. I am the majority owner and chief financial officer, and the business has generated over $200,000 in annual profit for the past 7 years. The three attorneys stared at the business documents in stunned silence as they processed this final piece of evidence that completely contradicted everything they had assumed about my financial sophistication and business acumen. The corporate structure showed that while James had served as the primary consultant and field operations manager, I had been responsible for all financial management, business development, and strategic planning. Our client list included dozens of restaurants, retail stores, medical practices, and professional service firms that paid monthly retainer fees for ongoing security consulting and risk management services. The business had grown steadily through referrals and reputation, requiring sophisticated financial management including quarterly tax payments, employee benefits administration, and complex insurance arrangements. Mrs. Morrison, Patterson said slowly, clearly struggling to process how completely wrong his initial assessment had been. I think we may have approached this situation with some incorrect assumptions about your financial background and current needs. Perhaps we should start over and discuss how we might actually be able to assist you during this transition period. But I was no longer interested in hearing their revised proposals or damage control efforts. Their initial condescending approach had revealed their true attitudes toward widows and their assumptions about women's financial capabilities, and no amount of backtracking could undo the insult or rebuild the trust they had destroyed with their prejudiced assumptions. Gentlemen, I said, gathering my documents and returning them to the portfolio, I think this meeting has been very educational for all of us. You've learned that your assumptions about just the widow were completely incorrect, and I've learned that I need attorneys who respect their clients enough to do proper research before making condescending recommendations. I stood up from the conference table and delivered my final message before leaving their office. You mentioned that you had already contacted several of James's investment accounts to begin liquidating positions without consulting me first. I want you to know that, as of this morning, I have contacted every single financial institution and informed them that any instructions from Patterson and Associates should be disregarded completely. The color drained from Patterson's face as he realized the implications of what I was telling him. If they had indeed initiated unauthorized transactions on accounts where I held co-signatory authority, they could face serious legal and professional consequences for exceeding their mandate and acting without proper client consent. Furthermore, I continued, I have instructed all account holders to require written authorization directly from me before processing any future transactions or account changes. Since my name appears on every single asset as co-owner or primary account holder, your firm no longer has any authority to make decisions or recommendations regarding our family's financial affairs. Chun attempted to interrupt with an apology and explanation about their standard procedures for estate management, but I held up my hand to indicate that I wasn't interested in hearing their excuses or justifications for their unprofessional conduct and faulty assumptions about my capabilities. I will be retaining different legal counsel to handle any remaining estate matters, I said, walking toward the conference room door. Attorneys who will treat me as an equal partner in financial discussions rather than as an incompetent widow who needs protection from her own poor judgment. Thank you for clarifying exactly what kind of service I can expect from firms that make assumptions instead of conducting proper client research. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click, leaving 3 expensive attorneys to contemplate how their prejudiced assumptions had cost them a client whose financial portfolio was worth over $5 million. And whose business generated substantial annual revenue that could have provided ongoing legal service opportunities for years to come. Over the following weeks, I received several phone calls from Patterson's office attempting to schedule follow-up meetings and offering revised service proposals that acknowledged my financial expertise and business experience. However, their initial behavior had revealed their true character and professional approach, and I had no interest in working with attorneys who had demonstrated such poor judgment and disrespectful attitudes. Instead, I retained the services of Margaret Chen, a brilliant attorney specializing in estate planning and business law who treated me as an equal partner in all discussions about our family's financial future. During our first meeting, she took the time to review all of our assets and business arrangements carefully, asking thoughtful questions about my investment strategy and long-term financial goals. Margaret's approach was completely different from the condescending treatment I had received from Patterson's firm. She recognized my expertise and experience, offering professional advice and legal guidance, while respecting my ability to make informed decisions about complex financial matters. Our working relationship became a true partnership based on mutual respect and shared commitment to protecting our family's interests. 6 months after the disastrous meeting with Patterson and Associates, I received a letter informing me that the Illinois State Bar Association had received complaints about their firm's handling of several estate matters and was conducting an investigation into their business practices. Apparently, other clients had experienced similar problems with unauthorized account access and condescending treatment from attorneys who made assumptions about their capabilities. The investigation revealed that Patterson's firm had been systematically underestimating their clients' financial sophistication and implementing unnecessarily conservative investment strategies that generated higher fees for the firm while limiting clients' growth potential. Several families had lost substantial amounts of money due to premature liquidation of successful long-term investments that the attorneys had deemed too risky for their clients. My complaint about their unauthorized contact with financial institutions and their failure to conduct proper due diligence before making recommendations became part of a larger pattern of professional misconduct that ultimately resulted in disciplinary action against the firm and mandatory continuing education requirements regarding client relations and fiduciary responsibility. 2 years after James's death, Morrison Security Consulting had grown to employ 6 full-time security specialists and generated over $400,000 in annual revenue. Our investment portfolio had increased to over $7 million through careful market analysis and strategic asset allocation, completely contradicting Patterson's assumption that I would need simplified, conservative investments to avoid financial mistakes. I had also established the James Morrison Memorial Fund, which provided educational scholarships for children of police officers killed or disabled in the line of duty. The fund was supported by profits from our business and investment returns, allowing us to award over $50,000 annually in educational assistance to deserving students pursuing careers in law enforcement, criminal justice, or public service. The fund's board of directors included several retired police officers, community leaders, and financial professionals who respected my business acumen and financial management skills. Nobody on the board treated me as just a widow who needed guidance with complicated decisions. Instead, they valued my expertise and relied on my analysis for investment decisions and strategic planning. 3 years after that insulting meeting in Patterson's conference room, I was invited to speak at a conference for police families about financial planning and investment strategies. My presentation focused on the importance of financial education, the power of long-term investing, and the dangers of allowing others to make assumptions about your capabilities based on their prejudiced stereotypes. The audience included dozens of police officers and their spouses who were eager to learn about building wealth and achieving financial security on law enforcement salaries. Many approached me after the presentation to ask specific questions about investment strategies, business opportunities, and estate planning considerations for families in high-risk professions. Several attendees mentioned that they had experienced similar condescending treatment from financial advisors and attorneys who assumed that police families couldn't understand sophisticated investment concepts or accumulate significant wealth. My story inspired them to take control of their own financial planning and seek professional services from advisors who respected their intelligence and capabilities. Today, 5 years after James's death and that humiliating encounter with attorneys who saw me as just the widow, Morrison Security Consulting has become one of the leading security consulting firms in the Chicago area. Our investment portfolio has grown to over $10 million, and the Memorial Fund has awarded over $200,000 in educational scholarships to deserving students. The business that those attorneys never bothered to research properly now employs 12 people and serves over 200 clients throughout the Midwest. Our success has been built on the same principles that guided our family's financial planning: careful research, strategic thinking, long-term perspective, and the refusal to accept limitations imposed by others' assumptions about our capabilities. Patterson and Associates eventually closed their doors after losing their professional liability insurance due to multiple client complaints and regulatory violations. Their condescending approach and failure to conduct proper due diligence had cost them their reputation and their business, proving that assumptions and prejudice are poor foundations for professional success. The lesson I learned from that experience extends far beyond financial planning and legal services. It taught me the importance of demanding respect and equal treatment in all professional relationships, regardless of others' assumptions about my background or capabilities. Being a widow didn't diminish my intelligence, experience, or ability to make complex decisions about my family's future. My story has become an example for other women who have been underestimated or dismissed by professionals who make assumptions based on stereotypes rather than taking the time to understand their clients' actual capabilities and needs. The attorneys who called me just the widow learned too late that their prejudiced assumptions had cost them the opportunity to work with a sophisticated client whose business could have provided substantial revenue for years to come. The accounts they forgot I co-signed had given me complete control over millions of dollars in assets, and their failure to recognize my authority and expertise had eliminated any possibility of building a successful professional relationship. Sometimes the most expensive mistakes are the ones based on assumptions rather than facts, and respect is the foundation of all successful business relationships. If this story has touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to comment below and let us know where you are watching from, as well as your thoughts on situations like this. Every perspective matters, because stories like these remind us that while we may face assumptions and stereotypes, there is always an opportunity for strength, dignity, and proving our true worth through our actions and achievements. When you engage a Euro, whether EUROS through commenting, liking, or subscribing a Euro, you are helping us build a space where people can feel empowered to challenge assumptions and demand the respect they deserve. Many people silently deal with being underestimated or dismissed by others, and often just hearing that someone else has faced similar challenges can provide enormous encouragement and inspiration. This channel is more than a platform for stories. EUROS is a community where resilience, intelligence, and determination take center stage. Your support allows us to continue creating and sharing content that empowers people to stand up for themselves and refuse to accept limitations imposed by others' prejudiced assumptions. So please, if this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you not just supporting us you standing with people everywhere who refuse to be defined by others' limited expectations and who prove their worth through knowledge, capability, and unwavering determination. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for helping us continue to share these powerful stories of strength and vindication.